You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, and Henry the FLOWMASTER Schwartz from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is time for your second dose of your bi-weekly options extravaganza, known hither and yon around the globe as the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the THEOptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you are just binging, mainlining, shooting it directly into your veins these days. If you like what you hear, you already downloaded the show. You probably streamed a chunk of it already. So you drove up our bandwidth bills. Go ahead and leave some ratings and reviews, some stars. Whatever your platform lets you do does help new people continue to discover the content in these troubled times. And then, of course, if you want to go above and beyond, you want more great content. And hey, who doesn't? You want 200 plus episodes coming at you the second you hit that button. Bam, they are in your face. When you get access to that exclusive pro podcast feed, you also get live access to this and everything else we do. Your week doesn't end with vol views. You get options oddities after that, giveaways, all sorts of fun, pro Q&As, theoptionsinsider.com/pro, or because you like your own special entrance /secret club. But again, that's just me talking. You didn't hear that from me. As we go around the horn and see who's joining us on the old program today, I do believe he survived the deluge of crickets that have just beset the shores of Maine. We call them locusts around here because they are a plague. But he is the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. Rock Lobster, you got locusts, you got clam pirates. Quite the dangerous place you're living in. How are things on the shores of Maine, sir?
It is dangerous. It is a little breezy. I guess we're getting some remnants of whatever, the storm. And last night, actually, the crickets were so loud at night. I was doing a webinar, and my marketing director's like, "What the heck is going on there? What's going on there?" And I'm like, "It's the crickets." She's like, "That's crazy."
Like, we know you usually result in crickets from the audience, but we don't expect to hear it coming from your end, right?
Exactly. It should be like from the other side.
Yes,
crickets,
it should be going the other way. Yes, but yeah, you're just cutting out the middleman. You're going straight to the crickets.
We went right to it.
All right. And also joining us, I was supposed to see this person in person today. I was standing hat in hand outside the door of the CBOE bright and early, and they said there's no one here called the FLOWMASTER. I was like, what are you talking about? Lo and behold, he is back in New York, but we'll get back together soon. He is the FLOWMASTER himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from CBOE East. Mr. FLOWMASTER, welcome back to the show, sir. How are things in CBOE East?
Thank you, Mark. Good to be here. Everything out east is good. I was supposed to be there, and then a positive COVID test on Friday derailed the entire week for me. But I had no symptoms, and I recovered from the no symptoms, and I'm now testing not negative. So I'll actually be out there in a couple weeks. We will rebook for an in-person taping. But exciting market conditions, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad not to be sealed in a room with you then for an hour. That's a good thing. As we keep on going, I do believe we are joined by this last person, fashionably late, as always. You know him, the drama mama of the group. When I say prima donnas on the option block, you think of this guy, none other than the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, thank you, sir, for gracing us with your presence.
Well, it is all about me. What can I say? So, I mean, now that I'm here, the show can begin.
Yes, the show can go on as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, let's get to it. Time for the block of trading, the portion of the show we break down what the heck is lighting up our tapes right now. Coming into the start of the show. And it's another one of those days, listeners, we have had quite the run. I think today would mark the fifth straight session if we did close green. Fifth straight session of green on the screen. So markets obviously loving themselves a little bit of the old post-Jackson Hole business. And then, of course, we had some consumer inflation numbers this morning. And that seemed to maybe take some of the bloom off the rose because we were rallying early this morning. North of 4,500, right around 4,530 in the S&P. Then they started coming for it right before showtime, actually. Because we did start the day off green, then it started trending mixed, and we got more firmly mixed. Looks like we were trending into the red. Looks like S&P didn't quite get back to 4,500, around 4,508. Then they bounced it again. So we are back perhaps in whipsaw territory, hanging out around 4,517 right now. So markets still mixed. S&P up slightly, Dow down slightly, NASDAQ up about 0.2% out there. So kind of pick your poison, what type of day you are having out there. VIX, of course, taking a break when we kicked off the show. It was just at 14, a little bit shy of that. Down about one and a third points. Let's see, how low did it get on the day? The low today was right close to 13.5, about 13.59. So they are coming for that vol, post Jackson Hole, post everything. They're just taking all that vol out of the room out there, listeners. VVIX itself, also the vol of vol. These are the numbers you would kind of expect in the dog days of summer. For a while there, it was kind of stretching credulity out there, what was going on. But now we're at an 80, so we're not threatening triple digits anymore. So down 4 points from our last show. You go back to the Jackson Hole days, and we were down about 20 points in VVIX. We were at or a little bit north of triple digits out there. So vol itself has come crashing in since then as well. VXX, same deal, fallen by the wayside, 21 3/4, down a little over 1, about 1.5 points out there. UVXY, 14 3/4, down 2 points. At this rate, they're going to have to reverse split it again in about, a few weeks to a month. Again, that's why you don't do anemic reverse splits. You don't want to do this dance every quarter or two. SVIX back up north of 30 3/4. when we kicked off the show today. I don't think it got a new all-time high today, but it got pretty freaking close. 30.99 was the high today. So the all-time high is 31.07. So not quite there, but it was kissing it within spitting distance out there. You know, those step 35s may come into play after all. How crazy is that? But SVIX right now up 2.5 points from where it was on the Monday show. UVIX 315 down 0.65. I mean, this thing's going to zero fast. I don't know what they're doing with it. I know I'm not trading it. Are you? And then VolQ 17.25 down a little over one, about 1.5 points from where it was this time last week. Let's go around the horn the opposite of the way we came. Let's start in the land of the prima-ist of donnas, Mr. Uncle Mike. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your eye out there? And I guess kind of depends when you look, whether it's an Uncle Mike type of market or not.
Yeah, I mean, today's it's very much it's an Uncle Mike covered call kind of market today, or these last few days, in that some of the stocks that we've had some in the money covered calls have kind of come down a little bit to where, and perhaps in a couple of weeks, the roll might be really beneficial, and then some of the ones with which we had out of the monies were coming up a little bit. So it's been a nice little mix overall. But in terms of the market as a whole, the main thing that's catching my eye right now would be on the bond front. We're actually starting to get a little bit of a rally in bond land. And I think from where that is, and by a little bit of a rally, I mean a little bit of a rally, we're getting a little bit of a pop just based upon the last, week and a half or so with where we were down. We're up almost 2% in the IEF ETF, which tracks 7 to 10 year treasuries. And so we're still down we're still at a point to where we're obviously far down from the highs that we had pre-COVID, but it looks like there's a little bit of life in it, which for bondholders can be pretty exciting. Now, the other good news about bonds is the fact that while you're waiting for it to come back, it kind of has its own built-in covered call. You get this thing called yield, and it's not a bad thing by any means. So that's probably the main thing that's catching my eye in today's market. Other than that, just looking at the S&P 500, we are flat on the day. With any of the sectors, we're pretty much flat as well on most of the sectors. There's nothing that's really sticking out too great. I believe on Monday we had oil energy was up a little bit, but aside from that, we really don't have a lot of major movement in the markets today. Now, another thing that is of note, not necessarily today so much, but over the course of the last few days, Apple has kind of come back to life in that we're up in the high 180s again, and it was not there a few days ago. So we are getting a little bit of a run up in Apple land, where it seems that if people like Apple, a lot of times people like the markets. So we are getting that. Another thing I've noticed, just a couple things across my screen, JP Morgan is down a little over 1% on the day. So it's kind of one of those stocks to where it's just kind of sitting there. And in the 140s, it had a nice move, but it really has not been able to break through the 150 level. So we have that. And then for the most part, that's about it on the day. It's for our long portfolios that we manage, kind of boring, but for the covered call portfolios, it's kind of exciting. That's what I'm seeing today.
That was a fascinating rundown, Uncle Mike. I do believe you committed one serious faux pas, though. I do believe you said the words bonds and exciting in the same sentence, and that's just not allowed. You don't understand that. That's a huge faux pas. You just offended all fixed income and a lot of equity traders as well. So I'm sure we'll expect your written apology post-haste, sir.
What's not exciting about bonds?
Yes, dripping with excitement in the world of yield and all things.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah, your voice implies some excitement. That'd be nice if it was there. We shall see. We shall see. All right, let's go around the horn. Let's continue the way we started. Let's go out to CBOE Eastland, where the FLOWMASTER is busy carving up this market in all sorts of fun ways. Mr. FLOWMASTER, sir, what's catching your eye out there in the markets today?
Well, I think that yields and bonds can actually be kind of exciting, especially when they're up around 5%. And you start to see headlines like, "Hey, you know what?" Because people go, they can do that math. They're like, "Wait, I got $10,000 in my account. Oh, that could be an extra $500." So, the decision starts to matter. And I mean, we see it in a lot of the option stuff too, right? When interest rates were zero, you can there's a lot of shortcuts, right? Like forwards don't really change, right? Because the time value of money is zero. So and things like, in the money put exercises don't happen when interest rates are zero, but then they start to happen when interest rates get up to 3, 4, 5%. So I think that the yields really do matter, and people need to be paying attention to them. And it's also the first time in, basically 20 years that yields have mattered. And for a lot of the trading community, I'm talking about retail, but also, institutional traders who are, in their early 30s, they may not have ever really been around and active in the market, when you had interest rates in the 5% zone. So I think that is one reason that the market's kind of a little bit skittish. We get some big moves, and I mean, lately, what I was kind of surprised by was how quickly we did snap back. We had a pretty decent little decline for a few weeks, middle of the month, and then the last 5-6 days in a row, it's been a heck of a bounce. I think it really surprised people. I think the Jackson Hole move. Well, I know it surprised people because one of the data projects I've been working on is a very simple SPX 0-day straddle versus results type of query. And I won't hijack the show and talk about 0-day options the entire time, but with options that you buy in the morning and they expire into a cash index at the end of the day, the math is really simple, right? You paid $20 for the straddle and the market moved $30, so you made $10 on that package. And so what's interesting is if you look at August was a rough month for people that were selling straddles, and there were meaning that the market was moving more than people were expecting, and that is basically that's what that number means. So and that's a little usually kind of priced a little bit higher than realized volatility turns out to dictate. So that's it. The other thing that's exciting for me is, it's the final day of August, so I get to compile all the stats. We're 2/3 through the year, if you can believe that, and option volume this month's coming in around 43.5 million contracts a day. That's up almost 2% over last month. It's not the busiest month of the year. January, February, and March were really busy, but it's a decent bounce back from a quiet July. So, and we got 4 more months. I'm sure are going to keep us busy. We're still on pace for over 11 billion contracts. So another record easily.
Easily, says the FLOWMASTER. Another record easily. It does seem like we're on pace for that. Look at the numbers we're putting up here in July and now heading into and coming out of the dog days of summer. Now, these are not the usual summer doldrum types of numbers we're seeing out there, listeners. I'm going to run down the numbers for the market in a minute. You'll see that as well. But first, let's go out to the dark and stormy shores of Maine. He is braving death at any moment, listeners, just to be on the show with us today. So many perils facing him on the shores of Maine. Let's hope he makes it through his segment. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, have at it.
The natural perils of Maine?
Yes.
The natural perils?
Many. And man-made, too, with the clam piracy.
Yes, it's windy, the crickets, and, the clam pirates aren't here because the water is angry today with all the wind from, I don't know, I guess it's from the hurricane. Thankfully, it wasn't. And I saw an interesting stat. You know which presidents had the most hurricanes? Taft and Trump.
Taft?
Over the last 100 years. They each had the same amount.
I'll say
the president with the least hurricanes? Obama. There you go.
Really? And he had a long run, too. Wow.
So I thought that was quite interesting. Anyway, speaking of vol, we did touch a low, I believe the lowest level in VIX since those nasty people at Fitch downgraded the U.S. government for their profligate ways. We haven't touched the low, but we are at the lowest point in VIX we did today since the government did that, since Fitch did that downgrade thing. So we have now broken through that vol. We're not at lows, but we are definitely at the lowest point since they made that announcement. So apparently the market thinks the government can stop spending money at any moment when they choose to, which of course they can. But I don't think with the current elected officials we have, that's going to happen anytime soon. That being said, stocks are looking to AI. There's some big earnings, but we have Lululemon and Broadcom, I believe, coming. So that's, I don't know how much AI is in Lululemon, but it certainly was a lot. What's the stock that was kind of ripping today? Oh my gosh. CrowdStrike or something, right? So some of the antivirus software or the cybersecurity stuff is now talking AI. So that stock was up like a ton today. So you got there, I would say there is some juices flowing back in technology. I know we're going to do some flow, but there was like people are buying the crap out of the 140 calls in Amazon for tomorrow. I guess on the back of the Shopify deal or something. So I'm just noticing some, there is some, I would say animal spirits again in the market. So I think and the other thing too is, when rates are coming down, when bonds were rallying, like people were starting to feel better again. I mean, there's just the correlation there. I think Henry might have mentioned it or TOSAW did is pretty strong. If rates aren't going up, people are buying stocks. So I think from, that point of view, the market is essentially shaking off all of the problems that caused the great financial crisis. You could argue that like the mark-to-market accounting and whatever they did was kind of goofy, because clearly those, the mark on a security and what the assets might be worth could be two different things when there's no liquidity, basically. And I think the Fed kind of fixed that in March, which is why we sort of rallied out of that area. And all the downgrades are, I think a lot of financial institutions are holding bonds underwater, but they're going to hold them to maturity and, do what they need to do with them. So like we've had all these kind of downgrades and warnings, but it hasn't materialized in anything tangible yet. So again, I'm not a fixed income expert in what bonds are holding, but it's for whatever reason, it seems like the market has gotten past that. At least if you're looking at VIX, and VIX is basically to me like vol. If I'm trading in a pit, I'm trading vol. Like when vol gets back to where it started, I think we don't care anymore. That's when I traded. When you traded along, it was the same thing. Like, okay, vol was 20, now it's 80. Everybody cares. Now it's 20 again. They don't care anymore. Now tomorrow might be different, but as of today, they don't care. And if they don't care, stocks are going higher. So that's kind of how I see it. And unless we get some kind of oddball news, which, would not be a surprise over the last 3 years. It looks like we just go higher, and lows for VIX was the low 13 area. I will say though, that right now, this is the first time in a little while I think volatility overall is slightly inexpensive, because we've had some decent volatility recently. 10-day vol as high as 13.5% in SPX. So like the market's kind of moving here. It wouldn't surprise me to have a 1% up day after the number tomorrow, and a little crush to VIX down to like 13 or sub 13. Would not surprise me. Because everybody, keeps thinking we're going to crash. So generally the market does the opposite. So, that's kind of what I'm seeing. And total non sequitur pot stocks. If you follow MSOS, it's something I have a little position in. Having a banner day the last couple of days. So apparently the need to tax pot is going to overweigh any any reservations against it. So I don't know if it's a squeeze on that or what, but that MSOS as an ETF, the pot ETF, is going a little bit hyperbolic lately. So I ain't going to complain about it. But that's another, again, the government is going to start looking for reps. So we'll see how that goes.
Always looking for revenue over there in the old government. Let's see what the market is looking for, what they're up to today, listeners. Like I said, a pretty robust day considering we are at the tail end of August right now, listeners. VIX likes itself a good whipsaw-y type of day. It seems like maybe we're poised on the cusp of another one of those, which might explain the 651,000 contracts on the tape in VIX right now. The ADV pretty much treading water since Monday. It's up about 1,000. I think it's up to about 724,000 contracts out there. SPY, similar business, looking pretty robust. 4.8 million contracts on the tape. The ADV, 8.66 million. The S, pretty much exactly where we expect it to be, 1.5 million contracts. Pretty much exactly halfway to its ADV, which is a little bit under 3 million contracts. Small caps having a bit of a light day, 367,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV out there, 829,000. And the Qs, 2.12 million. The ADV, 3.87 million out there. So the Qs look like they're on pace to hit it. Maybe. We'll see. Small caps, maybe not so much. Let's get out to the single names, see what's lighting things up out there. Cost you 216,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. Again, given the fact that it is August 31st, we are in kind of the teeth of the dog days of summer. That's a respectable number. That gets us to Shopify. Ticker symbol SHOP, 6540 is where it's trading right now, up $5.40, nearly 9% today. Looks like they're cutting a deal with the old Amazonians, and it seems like you cut a deal with the Amazonians, you rally, Amazon comes at you, you're going to drop. Folks liking this deal, stock popping out there today. Good for 216,000 contracts, and the number 10 spot on our countdown today. Number 9, the old artist formerly known as Google, now Alphabet. Class A, 227,000 contracts out there. 136.83 where it is right now, up about $1 today. And again, good for 227,000 contracts on the tape. Number 8, out to the meme land. It is AMC, 269,000 contracts. AMC actually reversing their slide, at least modestly right now. They're up about nearly 20 cents, trading $12.90. They were almost $14 earlier, so obviously can't maintain those levels. But maybe, it seems like maybe the initial, actually no, they got down to almost $2 lower on Tuesday. Maybe we have seen the worst of the sell-off, or maybe it's just the calm before the storm. Either way, AMC number 8, 269,000 contracts. Number 7, chip zone coming early today. It's AMD, 314,000 contracts. 106.16 off about 43 cents today. So a little bit of a lighter day out there in the chip zone. Chip stocks apparently can go down unless they're NVIDIA. Number 6, the artist formerly known as Facebook. This one's saying, you know what, I'm not selling off today. Meta up $2.50, trading $297.65, so threatening 300. Not that far away from its 52-week high of 326.20. Man, if you had asked that when we did that poll on them roughly a year ago, I would have laughed at your face that it would get anywhere close to that 52-week high again. And then here we are. Again, good for number 6 today, 323,000. Number 5, another interesting one. Apparently this name can sell off as well. It is Palantir, trading $14.95 right now, off about $1.40 today, or about 8.5%. They are coming for this one today. Looks like they just got downgraded yet again. I don't know which house downgraded. Morgan downgraded them. Apparently now with that downgrade, fully half of the analysts on Wall Street are now bearish on Palantir. Morgan Stanley said the AI optimism is overdone. You know our thoughts on analysts and their ratings on this network, listeners. But hey, in aggregate, half of them thinking maybe Palantir a wee bit robust, and it's feeling the weight out there today. Good for 452,000 contracts. And the number 5 spot, number 4. Another rare appearance at the number 4 spot for the fruit company. Apple trading right around 188 today, up about 33 cents. It's almost exactly $10 below its 52-week high of 198 and a quarter. So within kissing distance of that, 690,000 contracts on the tape today for the Amazonians out there. Number 4, I should say number 3, actually, the other half of the chip zone, it's NVIDIA. While AMD sells off, NVIDIA says, hold my bear, kid. I'm going to keep going up about $1.12 today, trading 493 and 3/4, threatening the 500 level. 502.66 would be their 52-week high. They are within a few minutes, given how much NVIDIA moves. They could be there a minute from now easily. Let's see. NVIDIA, 761,000 contracts on the tape today. And the number 3 spot. Number 2, the aforementioned Amazonians. 982,000 contracts, up $3. Apparently, market liking their end of this collaboration with Shopify as well. So it's a win-win. Everybody's rallying off this news today. And then number 1, nothing can dethrone the king, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tesla. 1.25 million contracts today, trading 257.94, up about $1.04 today. A decent ways from its 52-week high of 313.80, but also a far cry from its 52-week low of 101.81. Doesn't seem like that long ago we were at that, listeners, and we saw the dire headlines. Tesla revisiting lows. Is the stock done? And yet, here we are again, 257.86 today. What is popping it today? Looks like a strong gust of wind. There is news literally every day when you're looking at Tesla. Let's go out to the earnings front really quickly before we dive into some of the FLOWMASTER's analysis for this week. And another busy week for earnings. You might think it's behind us, but no, listeners. Big names popping off this week. NIO, so if you like the intersection, the Venn diagram of China and EVs, I present to you NIO. They were popping off on Tuesday. Best Buy as well. They apparently crushed it. I guess the death knell for them a little bit premature. Big Lots and HP. Wednesday, we had Vera Bradley and Salesforce and Chewy and Five Below. A little bit rich for Uncle Mike's blood. He prefers what's popping off today, the Dollar General. He's more of the dollar store dollar guy as opposed to the $5 dollar store guy. And then Ollie's Bargain Outlet, and then Broadcom. And then, as the Rock Lobster mentioned, they of sheer yoga pants infamy, Lululemon. Can they find some way to rope AI into making sheer yoga pants? If there's a way to do it, they'll probably try to do it on their earnings call, listeners. Luckily for you folks, because we like you, hot off the presses, we've got some earnings move results reports. Dollar General before the bell, 157 and 2/3 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 7.3%. They delivered nearly 17%, listeners. And it seems like in the wrong direction. Let's pull it up. Yeah, they're coming for Dollar General today, off nearly $20 now, or 12.5%. So definitely outpacing their straddle, however you want to cut it. Well, let's go out to Salesforce. They were yesterday after the bell. 215 even is where they were trading. They were pricing in 6%, and they delivered 5%. So not a huge move. If you add in today's move, which is up nearly 4%, they have outpaced their straddle a wee bit now. Again, it's all about holding periods at the end of the day, right? Listeners, we're just measuring, because that's all we really can measure, that initial impact when the earnings juice comes out of it, how much it moves. Let's go out to Ollie's. They were today before the bell. They were trading 74.88 when we ran this report. They were pricing in 8.3%. They delivered 6.7%. And right now they're up about, looks like $3 from that level they were at. So a decent move out there, but nothing crazy on the docket. Let's look a little bit ahead. Let's go after the bell today to Lululemon. How much juice are they pricing into sheer yoga pants? Let's find out, listeners. $376.73. They're pricing in $27.50. That certainly ain't nothing, listeners. And in the past, they've moved 27 1/3. So it's almost exactly in line with expectations. That's interesting. And again, given that we're hanging out at almost exactly 100% for the season, not entirely surprising. Let's look ahead really quickly to a name you may have heard of in dread and or infamy. It is GameStop. They're next week 6 after the bell. They were trading at 18 1/3. They're pricing in $2.40. In the past, they moved $2.75. So actually, a little bit of light juice on the GameStop front. Didn't know that was possible. Right now, I said our season is probably going to come in, and that is the case. We reran the numbers for this morning, and we have dropped now from a par, an even par, down to 98%, which is actually exactly in line with our long-term average. So interesting stuff. Will we hang out there, drop a little further? I wouldn't be surprised to see us maybe drop a little bit, but probably hang out at around these levels. It shall remain to be seen as we keep crunching the numbers for you. Speaking of crunching the numbers, listeners, it is time to do it. It is time to unleash the beast that is the odd block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the odd block.
All right, everybody, it's time to get weird. It is time to get wild. It is time for the odd block. Before we unleash the eye of the FLOWMASTER, Mr. FLOWMASTER, I can see you've been busy here compiling some data. Is this your FLOWMASTER's chart/table for how we're looking for the year here?
Yeah, that is. I pasted it into our show notes. So yeah, we did over 1 billion contracts this year, and we still have another few hours to. This month. Still have a few hours to go.
So you're saying we might be there. This might be the busiest month of all time.
Yeah, it's funny because it's not as busy as the first 3 months of the year, but August we have 23 trading days. So it looks like it's gonna be close. I think we're gonna be below March, but it'll probably be the second busiest month on record. Unless I get out there and swing around some mega size.
Start slinging some nanos. Those count as one contract, right? There you go.
I could do 1 million nanos myself.
You could do 1 million nanos, no problem. There you go. If every listener just put up 1 million nanos, we'd blow the doors off this number out. Yeah, but still, think about that. 1 billion contracts in the dog days of summer, sir. If I had told you that at the beginning of the year, you would have laughed me out of the room. And now here we are, sir.
Absolutely. So it's been fun, and like I said, I think last time, it's been a whippy market. It's been a stock pickers market. I got a couple of odd block trades for today, but it's been one of those markets where it's probably been a better experience to be sitting in front of the screens and kind of watching and picking your spots than kind of some of these other months where we had high correlation and everything just went down or everything just went up.
All right, let's get into some of these Eye of the FLOWMASTER names. First, we're going out to Range Resources Corp. Listeners, ticker symbol RRC. This is a nat gas exploration and production name out of Tejas. Trading about $32.50, up about $0.50 today. On the year, you know the deal with nat gas. If you don't, tune in to TWIFO, comes up after this show. We talk a lot about nat gas on that show. A year ago, it was trading $32.86. And as you'd expect, kind of all over the place. They crushed it almost immediately to the low for the year in September of $22.61. Then they rallied it again by November, got up to $30.25, back down to about $23 in February, and so on and so forth. They rallied it again, almost $30 in May. Then they cook it back down to $26 in June. Then they rallied it to its high for the year in August, on August 9th, $34.50. And right now it's a little over $2 below that, $32.39. Mr. FLOWMASTER, sir, what are folks up to out there in Range Resources today?
Okay, so this is an interesting one, and it actually printed while we were already on the air, so it's a very fresh block of unusual flow. Just after 118 today, 6,000 of the OC34 calls traded for 98 cents. Okay, the stock was at 32.22. Okay, so this is the 34 strike, expires in October. It's not that far off, 50 days, and about $2 for break even. And it's about 6 times the average daily call volume, and it is opening because there's no open interest in that line. So that's kind of why I noticed it. But and it's a bullish trade. I don't follow natural gas super closely, but it's an outlier for sure. What I thought was really interesting is looking at these the exchange open close data, which I've mentioned before. Right, it specifically identifies customers bought and sold, and firm bought and sold, and market maker bought and sold. So you can actually see on a block like that how you can confirm it was a customer buyer, and that's what we were able to see. But on the sell side, out of 6,000, you had 5,999 were firm, and a one lot was market maker. And this traded in the auction facility, meaning a firm like a big bank, like all the big banks of, talked to the customer. Customer said, I want to buy 6,000. The bank said, okay, listen, you're filled. We will sell them if we have to. We're going to go get what we can in the market through an auction process, right? So, and the market at the time was 85 cents a buck, and they were paying almost a buck anyway. So it's pretty decent purchase. My guess is that the reason there's a single contract sold by the market maker is that the market maker wants to basically keep track of this trade. And by doing that, they now know that it was a customer buyer because they can actually, when they get the fill, they can analyze their own activity. And so it relates to a conversation I had with somebody this morning on an exchange floor, just kind of about how to really take advantage of as much information as you possibly can, and what are people doing that's a little bit unusual. And to me, there's a little unusual is participating in a big trade, not because you like the trade, but because you want to keep track of the buyer and even possibly sniff out who the buyer was. So
I like that. Parking a one lot in the book, so you could, in your own books, you can keep track of it. I like that. That's great. That's why we have the FLOWMASTER on the show for little nuggets and details like that. By the way, how do you see that open close data again? That's not in detail or contract history?
It is. It's in the single contract menu. So if you go into the RRC OC 34 calls in option alert, it's number 6. It says CBOE account type.
Oh, okay. I have to go into the single option history. Okay, I was looking at the full trade. Okay, I will do so. While I do that, Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on that? And also a park in a one lot so you could track the position. What do you think, sir?
Parking a one lot to track a position? Is that what you're
Did you not hear anything we just talked about, sir? Were the crickets drowning you out again?
I was just looking at the RRC calls, or is it I must have missed something.
Oh my goodness!
All right. Just tell us what you think of the calls. Then we'll leave the other parts for the listeners to laugh at and snicker at.
Right. I just trying to multitask at once, and I'm a terrible person. I didn't think. By the way, I like all the oils right now. I think they're undervalued, and the market's totally forgot about the fact we need fossil fuels. But that is another totally separate issue. So as far as the RRC calls, they definitely look, again, not terribly overpriced. So it's hard not to like calls that somebody buys and they pass the first sniff test right away.
Oh, yeah, I see it here now, Mr. FLOWMASTER. Customer buys 6,000, firm sells 5,999, market maker sells 1. I love that. I love everything about that. I'm going to start tracking those things myself. Interesting stuff. See, listeners, the little nuggets. If you're firing up the old Trade Alert, the old FLOWMASTER platform for yourself, you could find little fun nuggets like that. Speaking of fun nuggets, we got more in store for you. Let's go out to everyone's favorite, the Internet of Things. Well, at least that's their ticker, IoT. This is Samsara Inc. They are an IoT company, so they're going to power your fridge and maybe your car and everything else out there, listeners. 2712. It seemed like that was the hot thing a little while ago, and now has all obviously been usurped by all things AI. Apparently, when the AI starts driving the cars, then they will come together again, and then Skynet will truly rule over us. But right now, Samsara, 2712, up about a third of a buck, a third of a buck on the year. Let's see, it was $14.87 a year ago, so nearly a 2xer here on the year. It's been mostly a steady rally. They got it up to about $19 in May. Then this thing just popped hard. Actually, June 1st, it was 1901. By June 6th, D-Day, it was 2809. And then it hit its high for the year on June 14th of nearly $31. So they popped this thing hard. Good earnings, maybe some sort of takeover rumor. Whatever the deal is in this name, this thing has been just on the rampage since June 1st. Kind of hanging out here now. I actually gave a lot of it back about a couple of weeks ago, got back down to about $22 August 17th, has since rallied another $5 back to about $27.12. All that a long way around, Mr. FLOWMASTER. What did your eye of the FLOWMASTER find out there in the Internet of Things, IoT, sir?
So, yeah, this is, I have never actually looked at this name very closely, and I agree. The Internet of Things was kind of the hot topic until I guess maybe AI pushed it off of the top of the list. But that does seem to be what this company specializes in. I noticed this one because of heavy total volume, about 17,000 contracts right now, and it has earnings tomorrow. So, and this is and it's a big earnings mover when when I look at the E-gap for IoT, which is our earnings gap estimate, it's also in LiveVol Pro has an earnings gap estimate with historic. You can see the straddle's around 18%. That's a SEP 15 straddle, but it pretty much implies a move around 14% tomorrow or tonight even. And then I'm looking at the historical moves. This thing's moved. It's gone up more than like 15-20% for the last 3 earnings cycles. But today's flow is kind of bearish. In fact, it's 13,000 puts against only 4,000 calls. And then when you go and you dig into the puts themselves, it looks like there's a buyer of 5,000 of SEP 22 halves. So those are $5 down. Possibly just a hedge for a long who was going to keep his stock or her stock. But there's also SEP 25 strike buyers, put buyers a few minutes later. So like a kind of a total of around 10,000 of these short-term puts that seems to kind of bode for a down move into earnings. If that's a trade that you like to play, obviously, we've talked about it a lot, and I know Matt Amberson specializes in it. Can be a very volatile occupation.
So all this bearish flow in IoT, does that mean my dream, sir, of having Trade Alert on my fridge, is that now good and dead?
What I told you last week, I'm still in my head working on the Robo Clerk, which is Trade Alert on your Alexa.
Then we'll have it everywhere. Then Trade Alert can just follow me around the house. I can have the voice of the FLOWMASTER. Not only will I wake up to CBOE markets data every morning from the Journal talking about call skew and NVIDIA, but now I will literally have the FLOWMASTER's voice following me around the house and in the studio saying, customer buys, market maker sells one of a 6,000. Right. that would be a dream/nightmare all rolled into one, sir. Mr. Rock Lobster, if you are ready to join us again, sir. First off, what are your thoughts of the FLOWMASTER's voice just following you around the house? How eerie would that be? And B, what are your thoughts on these puts in IoT?
I kind of was thinking that, like, FLOWMASTER's popping through EFA, 250 calls, 500,000, kind of in his sort of New York twang. I don't know. Might be appealing. You
can see a market for that? Okay.
Could work. I'll tell you what, I like the idea of voice alerts for our students for our trades, because my gosh, that would definitely, as we roll out our app and stuff, it would definitely help people. Like, hey, wake up, time to close the trade, everybody. IoT, we saw some volume in here earlier in the week. I am trying to place it in my brain. I thought there was some call volume in here. Let's see here. I want to go back to, yes, it was a big put purchase. Somebody bought 2,900 of the SEP 15, 22.5 puts, and it was on the 29th. So I remember seeing that. I thought it was kind of, it was kind of a chunk of pre-earnings paper. I thought it was a big, that's like $5 below where we're trading. They're paying $1. So, it was a sizable piece of bearish paper. I would say anything remotely crowd connected could move, but 18% feels like a pretty juicy straddle. I mean, you remember, what do they price the NVIDIA? I was kind of laughing because like the 550 calls were $4, and I was trying to tell my students like the stock has to move like $70 after the vol crush to make any money. So I think the liquidity providers seem to be jacking stuff up, and there's interest at higher prices. So I'm just going to say, FLOWMASTER had kind of a little, he's got the 22 and a half puts showing there. And then I saw some earlier in the week. So it looks like anyway, there's some bearish flow in earnings, but like the price is it's not cheap. You're paying money for this stuff now.
You are a big fan of IoT stuff, listeners, then maybe not the week for you. We'll get out of here on this one, listeners. This is EOS Energy Enterprises, ticker symbol EOSE, trading $3.30 right now, $3.30, not $330, off about 7 cents. Let's see, on the year, a year ago, it was about $2, and then they crushed it they rallied it all the way up to $5.66 back in June 28th. Hung out there for about a week. Then they came for it again, got back down to $2.30 on August 11th. And then since then, they have rallied it again back to $3.30 where it is right now. A lot of action out here. Mr. Flowmaster, what did your eye notice out here in EOSE today?
Yeah, this was another one with heavy volume, and we've mentioned it a couple times, and I'm long this stock, but short some calls against it because it's one of these names that popped up. It seemed to be kind of behaving a little bit like a meme stock. It was a low dollar stock. You know, I think the day I bought it, it had already run up 10 or 15%, but it's also like a 300 vol name. So I think those can be fun to trade. Although I remember you making fun of me in Tupperware, but you know these $2-3 stocks where you can sell at the money calls for 25 or 30 cents. Obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but the risk profile is similar to being short naked puts, so it's a little bit of it can be a dangerous game, I guess, if the stock really implodes. But if the stock bounces around, you get a lot of opportunity to get in and get out. So today in the name, it's not crazy bullish, but it is called the call to put ratio is 10-1. Couple of big trades. The SEP 22nd, so these just expired in 3 weeks. The 5 strike calls, we saw a buyer of 5,000 of those, 40 cents. So like I said, and the implied vol on that trade was about 260%. So that can be one of those ones that's kind of fun to sell against a stock position. And then also some SEP 22nd 4.5 strike calls. Also bought about 2,000 of those, around 1240. Same thing, around 280 vol on that. So, this name, like I said, I've gotten in, I've gotten out of a lot of it. Now I'm more or less overwritten and just kind of watching it. But EOS Energy has been a fun one to watch for the last
you can sell
month or so.
Sell the 5s for 40 cents. Not a bad do, as they say out there, listeners. So if you hold the stock for a little over a month, you're getting over 10%. You go to the 4.5s, it's 55 cents. So a fair amount of juice. Got to love these short, stale, restricted names and just all the upside they're pricing in. As it's time for us to keep going into our final segment, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on. Let's also pay off really quickly on our question of the week. We already talked about last week's poll here. This week, we're asking you which product has had the largest overall impact on the options market. Gave you VIX, gave you weeklies, gave you dailies / 0 DTE, or the infamous other. Let's go out to the land of the Uncle of Mike's first. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is your choice? B, what do you think our audience is choosing? And C, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week?
I'm going to go with VIX and VIX. And in terms of what I am watching for next week, what I am looking at this point is seeing if the bonds can continue to be the utter array of excitement with which they always are to me. Don't get me going. I might start singing some Bing Crosby again on this show about war bonds. But anyway, just watching that to see if we can continue to climb from there. Also watching Apple to see if we can make another run at 200 to see how we're reacting to that. And we do have debates going on right now, or we are in political season. So watching the indictments and the debates, or the debates, the indictments and the news. Something like that. Anyway, that's what I'm watching.
Something like that, indeed. Mr. Rock Lobster, same question for you. What is our audience choosing? Most impactful product, VIX, weeklies, or dailies, or other, if you have an other you want to suggest. B, what are you choosing? And then C, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week until actually no show on Monday, so a full week here.
Oh, my gosh. So VIX, so you're saying the VIX or the weeklies or the dailies?
Yeah, yes.
Right. So I mean, I'm going to say the most impactful product. In my view, the most impactful product has been the Louise. The most impactful product has been VIX. But, I mean, they've all been pretty big. But I think VIX definitely changed the industry first. So whatever the other knuckleheads say about weeklies and dailies, VIX has been more impactful. So I don't care what they say. I'm right about
Your
this
work
anyway.
wife was going on and on about how he said it was dailies. He was all in on the dailies already. I thought that was a little soon, but he would brook no compromise. He was like, it's all dailies.
No, I disagree.
There you go. Little infighting over there in the land of the pit. And then what are you keeping an eye on for? Well, first off, what do you think our audience is voting for? And then what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week?
Interesting. You know what? I think the audience is going to go weeklies.
Interesting indeed. What are you keeping an eye on, sir?
Well, we've got I think we have a non-farm payroll number tomorrow, some kind of payroll number. And see if bond rates kind of keep dropping and bonds keep rallying. So we're kind of back. I think we're in rally ho mode again, as long as people don't fear interest rates. And looks like the inflation numbers are kind of coming in as expected. I think AI is going to be back on the wind train. So, and see if VIX actually can drop below 13. Then we've gotten past this. We've gotten past this huge downgrade. So again, on a 3-day weekend, you would expect it to drop there just on the trying to press out the ball. So let's see if they squeeze the last out of it tomorrow into the close.
Squeeze the last drops and saving them to the last moment. We have the FlowMaster. Mr. FlowMaster, what is your vote in our poll? B, what do you think our audience is voting for? And C, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next Thursday?
I think that the most important development is VIX, and I do really think that it's important to keep an eye on the VIX one day. Now that is a number that is based on very liquid options in these short-dated SPXs. So VIX and VIX one day, but I think that the listeners will choose the weeklies because that's been such an incredible success story with the retail and pro-tail trading community. So. Those are my guesses. And then I'll be looking at, the market moving around. They actually at CBOE, they gave me a new version of CBOE Silex, which is a front end that we have for routing orders, kind of for basically professionals or very, very high-end professional retail, I guess I would call it. With a new risk component. So it's actually kind of neat. You can basically look at your risk slide, up, down X% with vol doing whatever you want in real time across whatever products you want. It's been very cool to see the kind of how risk is being managed.
All right. That music means we are done here for the old OB. I'm definitely on the VIX tip. I'm with you two. Unfortunately, our audience seems like they've been poisoned by the meatball earlier this week because they're going to dailies hard. 52.8% of you choosing the daily /0 DT. I get it. They're popular now. Are they the most impactful as of this moment? Probably not. They've only really been in high gear for less than a year. So, they launched more than a year ago, but we haven't seen this kind of volume for a full year. Then number 2 is the VIX, 32.1%. And then the weeklies bringing up the rear, 15.1%. You got about a day left. Get over there at Options is the place to go if you want to make your voice heard. As we go around the horn here, let's start with the FlowMaster, sir. If folks want to check out the cool market maker one lots and everything else, where should they go? What should they do, sir?
CBOE.com/RMA, that's Risk and Market Analytics. You can request a trial of Trade Alert. You can also request a trial of CBOE Silex, which is, as I said, more of a trading and risk management platform. So take a look.
Take a look indeed. And then, Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, if folks want to take a look at all the Uncle Mike goodness, maybe debate with you the relative excitement of bonds, where should they go? What should they do?
By all means, stcharleswealth.com. Set up an appointment with me. Would love to have a conversation with anyone. I love talking to our listeners.
There you go. And last but not least, save him from the plagues of locusts, listeners. Mr. Rock Lobster, where should folks go if they want more Rock Lobster goodness? Mr. Rock Lobster, are you alive?
Yes, the plagues. I just got it. Dang it. Optionbit.com, 888-TRADE-01. Or go to Money Map Press, my weekly profit cycles, which is totally kicking butt. So if you want to find ways to buy them SPY puts or SPY calls and have the VIX pay for them, you can learn how to do it over there. And there you go. And then you get 10% off anything at Option Pit if you say you heard this here show. And I got to roll.
There you go. 10% off the land of the pits. if you listen to this show. That's going to do it for us here on this show. Not going to do it for us here on the network. Of course, Twifo coming back a little bit later than its usual time. We pushed it back about half an hour because I was planning on schlepping back quickly from the CBOE back here to the studio. So we moved it to 2 p.m. We'll be joined by Carly Garner over there in the CME hot seat. So good stuff. Usually when she's on, we'll talk a lot of energy and nat gas. So if you like all that kind of fun, stay tuned for that. Back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. We can all find out how much vol they're taking out of this market. Spoiler alert, a lot going into the long weekend. And after that, for all you pro folks, options, oddities, off on Monday for the Labor Day holiday. Then back again next Thursday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.